Hey, this is Steven Platinum, your friend in wrestling, and this is Platinum versus Smackdown. This is from April 23rd, 2021. Sorry, the last couple of days have been ridiculous crazy. You know how it goes. But I want to keep the time and make sure that I'm putting this in because this Smackdown, there's a couple of troubling things about it. Hopefully, we are not seeing. I think it's safe to say that regular WWE fans to ultra picky wrestling pundit assholes like myself were hoping that out of the two brands, Raw and SmackDown, that the elements of SmackDown would influence Raw more than Raw would find its way into SmackDown. And up to now, they've sort of maintained for pretty neutral ground with one another, which seems, again, strange. It's basically the same writing team that does both, though I think that there are a couple of factors that influence SmackDown that do not influence Raw, that maybe were the difference makers in terms of, Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman having some say on SmackDown, possibly Daniel Bryan as well. Possibly Edge as well, it seemed to be making for a product that made more sense. Plus, there was a priority in shoring up SmackDown. This is a lot of inside baseball stuff, but that interests you if you're listening to this, presumably. SmackDown was the brand that months ago needed to be shored up. Fox was not happy with the declining ratings, and so they moved a couple of the bigger angles, meaning storylines for the not wrestling people, to SmackDown. And they did a big talent exchange. And basically, the stuff that people tended to respond less to on SmackDown went to Raw, and the things that people tended to respond more to on Raw went to SmackDown. That combined with just a different kind of booking philosophy on SmackDown lent itself very well. And I think that played out at WrestleMania as well. When you look at the matches that people remember, certainly the Roman Reigns title match was a big deal. The Sasha Banks Bianca Belair story was a big deal. And the things that tended to flop at WrestleMania were Raw brand, right? The really lame Fiend Randy Orton match, for example. And up to now, we've seen maybe the things they're doing on SmackDown that are working Raw will take on some of those elements. I think what we're seeing, however, is a bit of the Raw feel, which when I say Raw feel, I mean kind of disjointed things, things that feel like they're just rehashing stuff that we've seen before and not elevating it. I am all for a feud. I am all for this notion of doing things more than once if it feels like it is escalating or evolving the story. But what we're seeing on SmackDown are just signs. I'm not saying doom, end of the world, repent. I'm just saying that SmackDown is, it appears to be losing a little bit of its zip in certain ways. So we open SmackDown. I will say that I think out of the changes that have happened on commentary on both brands, SmackDown got the most immediate benefit, right? I don't think anybody would dispute that. Whereas Raw has become very flat without Samoa Joe there. And that's not to say that the new people won't do great. I think McAfee right away really gets the wrestling thing. He really loves the wrestling thing. There's a joy and a lift on SmackDown overall from the commentary on up that happens on SmackDown that does not happen on Raw. And I would be very unhappy if that went away. So we got Rollins, who's speaking from the stage, mocking Cesaro. and congratulates him on reaching his potential because he was in the ring with Rollins, right? Fans boo. Rollins takes credit for taking Cesaro all the way down from the bottom, gave him the performance of his life, etc., etc., etc. And he has heard that Cesaro is planning on moving on from Rollins and has his eyes on the Universal title. But nothing is over until Rollins says so. Now, this in of itself is not a bad thing. If they want to hold Cesaro in a kind of a holding pattern of a sort, that's fine. It would be more interesting to have Cesaro move on. Just my opinion, though. We'll see what they can do with this, right? He blames the rain delay throwing him off his game. If it wasn't for that, Cesaro can't beat Rollins on Rollins' worst day and Cesaro's best, which again seems contradictory. I get that he's a heel and he can kind of say whatever he wants, but if they're going to do this talking segment for the beginning of Smackdown that's going to last for quite a spell, which is definitely a hallmark of the Raw brand, it's just got to be better than this. This is not a way to start off a program on Friday night, no less, when you're already fighting for a more limited audience on a Friday night, especially now that people are going out and about. You got to hook them right from the beginning. Your competition, I saw an interview where Triple H was sort of justifying NXT wasn't competing with AEW, which is horseshit, but whatever. But some of the other things he said I did find interesting, which is we recognize that our competition is in essence everything on television and everything that you can do. And he's right. So Smackdown has that problem, right? And if their competition is everything, a long talking segment with Seth Rollins talking about Cesaro, it ain't gonna get it. It just isn't gonna get it. Jey Uso comes out, says Cesaro better listen to Rollins. He can't beat him or Roman Reigns, on and on. Out comes Daniel Bryan. They're making matches. Stuff's going to happen. They're using one half, and then out comes Paul Heyman. They're using the beginning of the show to promote the end of the show. Again, that's anybody who's a longtime listener of me knows one of my pet peeves is using one half of the show to promote the other half of the show. They think that, this translates into it's good because it makes the show self-contained. It's bad because you're not able to promote things in advance. And it's been shown many times when you have something to promote in advance, you do better. If you have a title match that you can promote in advance, it does better. If you have a culmination of a feud that you promote in advance that finishes on the show, you do better. Then we got Cesaro and Daniel Bryan against Seth Rollins and Jey Uso. So this kind of ramshackle, let's throw teams together and then they do their thing. And this really bad trend that Raw does that now SmackDown is doing of having guys work more than one match on a show, which again makes them feel very threadbare, like they don't have big, huge rosters, which they most certainly do. So it's strange. This match does get time, which is really great. Everybody gets a chance to shine. Again, the in-ring stuff is fine. Bryan charges. He nails the running knee to Uso for the pin after all is said and done. So they celebrate. Bryan calls out Universal Champion Roman Reigns, which makes sense, right? Uso tries to attack from behind, but Cesaro catches, drops him, hits that move, hits the Cesaro swing for the fans to pop. Bryan counts the rotations, taunts Roman Reigns on the mic. Cesaro says Reigns not saving his cousin shows he's not a family man. Bryan says maybe Cesaro should swing Cesaro again. Again, putting stuff over. Very good here. Fans chant, yes. Cesaro swings Uso again. Yeah. Now we go to Sonya. Now this was a good chunk of the show. All said and done, this whole thing probably was 30% of the show, almost a third of the show dedicated to this. Yeah. So we'll see if it translates ratings-wise. I would suspect it will not, which is a shame, because this is, again, them building up their main event program. Got Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce talking backstage to Intercontinental Champion Apollo Crews with Commander Aziz. Crews is furious, having to defend the title. And all this kind of stuff, right? Crews is going to defend against Kevin Owens. Sure. Crews stares at Pearce to end the segment. Okay. Again, threatening heel, looking at Adam Pearce. Now, if this is foreshadowing, okay. But if it's just showing how ineffectual he is compared to the babyface powers that be, it's not really served. Nia Jax versus Tamina Snuka. Natalya, of course, is watching from ringside. They do their thing. Reginald and Shayna Baszler end up on the apron to distract, but Baszler gets kicked off. Baszler has words with Reginald at ringside now, forcing him to trip over the steps and go down, and this distracts Jax, and Tamina super kicks her for the pin to win. So I guess we have new tag champion or challengers for the women's tag titles. There's trouble between the champs and Reginald. Oh boy. Kayla's backstage with Kevin Owens. He cuts a good promo. At the end of the day, Big E comes up laughing, saying Owens jumped the line because we knew this was Big E's match and his title. Owens jokes that Big E lost that title. He's probably right about getting a rematch, but it's not happening tonight. So they get a little stare down betwixt the two of them. Back from the break, Daniel Bryan approaches Adam Pearce about getting the Universal title shot set up for Cesaro. Pearce says it's not that easy, but he'll try. Bryan tells him to do more than try. Everything goes through this conduit of Adam Pearce now. Now it always to a point has, but now we all run under this kind of structure. NXT runs under this structure where everything goes through William Regal, and now SmackDown does it where everything goes through Adam Pearce, and then on Monday Night Raw, everything goes through Adam Pearce as well. How is this structure? It's okay, but it's very lazy storytelling. There's no spark of things happen because they feel destined to happen, which is a much stronger emotion, much more stronger emotional connection than, well, so-and-so asked for it and politically maneuvered. If the political maneuverings were interesting in and of themselves, that'd be one thing, but that is highly debatable. All right. We got an Intercontinental title match between Kevin Owens and Apollo Crews. This is one of those things where you know Apollo Crews is not losing this title, right? Aziz basically gets up on the apron, yells at Owens. Crews takes advantage and rolls him up. But then Owens drops Crews with a stunner. Aziz comes in, lays Owen out with the Nigerian nail, that weapon. We go to replays. Sammy enters the ring and dances over Owens while he's laid out. Again, nothing horrible, all very by the numbers. It's just, where's the spark? Yeah. Kayla's backstage with Paul Heyman. Is Roman Reigns going to accept Cesaro's challenge tonight? Heyman admires and respects Cesaro. He doesn't answer the question. He says, we'll hear from Reigns before the night is over. We go back to commercial. Back from the break, new backstage correspondent, Megan Morant, is waiting for the Intercontinental Champion, Apollo Crews. He walks in, he's celebrating. Crews is attacked by Big E. Big E drops Crews, pulled away by officials. McAfee wonders where Aziz was when Big E attacked. We get a new vignette for the return of Aleister Black. He's sitting in a chair. He's reading from a book called Tales from the Dark Father, the Dragon. it is what it is, and smoke fills the room when it's done. Fucking cornball shit. Kayla's backstage with the Smackdown Tag Champions Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler. Who's going to win between Alpha Academy and the Mysterios match? Ziggler goes with Alpha Academy. They ask what's next for Roode and Ziggler. The Street Profits interrupt, and they want another title shot after losing last week, which comes across as you would imagine. They got to get back to the back of the line. The two teams go their separate ways, but there's heat there. Not really. Bayley goes on about her Backlash match, where she's going to get a shot at Bianca Belair, the SmackDown Women's Champion. She takes credit, meaning Bayley, for getting Belair ready. And there's, again, a lot of repeating of themes, right? I helped you by losing. Remember, we heard that from Rollins. So anytime you're having, and this is something that I occasionally get on AEW for, where they don't realize they're hitting the same beats repeatedly throughout the same show. And we're doing that here, and I don't think they even realize it. What's the problem with doing that? Is it gives the show an inorganic feel. And this feeling that you're not watching something that's creatively blossoming. And that's a feeling that you want with pro wrestling. You want this feeling that you don't know what to expect. And hitting the same beats in multiple angles definitely counters that feeling. We go back to Kayla. She's with Bianca Belair. A lot of talky on this show, that's for sure. And I get it, because they just don't have a lot going on as far as matches that they can do that don't feel empty. And that's the problem when you're not setting up things in advance and instead using one half of the show to set up the other half of the show. Bayley and Belair have a thing. Alpha Academy against the Mysterios. The heel tag champs picked the heel team to win, so you know what happens. The face team wins. And then Cesaro and Bryan are entering the ring, and they greet the Mysterios on the ramp. That's a small touch that I actually like, that here's guys that get along. And so, congratulations, guys. Now we're going to go do our thing. And we go to commercial. I don't hate that as a transition, because now we're looking forward to, okay, now what's going on. Cesaro's in the ring with Daniel Bryan. Reigns enters the ring. More talky. Boy, we're going to bookend with the talky. Here's the deal. Bryan will be banished from SmackDown forever if he loses next week. The match is confirmed for next Friday. Bryan's career on the line, but for just SmackDown. It's ugly and it's muddled, and it just makes your mind go, okay, they're already hedging their bets on this stipulation, but at least they're setting up for next week. And that's how we go off the air. Boy, probably the worst SmackDown they've had in quite a while.